Hi class, welcome to session 5 of our social justice course. In this week, we're going to sort of be culminating what we've gone over so far. So reviewing again the social justice and injustice roles and kind of what they mean, what we did in session 1. Social policy and the drivers of social inequity. So just remembering back or hearkening back to what we kind of reviewed there. For example, the Social Security Act. Now, if you've had me in policy classes, you would know that I'm a huge supporter of the Social Security Act. I think it is and has been heralded as the best anti-poverty law ever created worldwide. So it does have its strengths. However, it does create some racial divides and inequities. And that's why we need to always review and be self-aware of where policies are coming from, those historical ideologies and those old philosophers that impacted those in our decision making today. Then we went over the social determinants of health in session 3 as you've worked toward completing that paper related to that topic. Then we went over this week the knitting together the macro, meso, and micro in the realm of community organizing and grassroots efforts. So now we're moving toward progressive community organizing. And in progressive community organizing, which is the main crux of this course, obviously, and the book that you purchased for this course, that has to do with social movements and how they've had a transformative effect on the identities of folks. And so social change works helps participants to then break free from those sort of structural constraints we've reviewed here. In this course, we discuss structural racism or structural inequities that are in place within our social construct. And now you're at a place where we're going to talk about how this is how folks break free of that and create that identity to talk about those constraints that have inhibited themselves or others. And so that identity then, when we're talking about being the self-aware organizer, it's not just the identity of the individual per se. It's in this case, it's just about a personal identity and a collective identity. Meaning, when you have a collective identity, there are sort of 3 ways in which that comes out, and it is a form of an identity for yourself and being the self-aware organizer. Now, when we say self-aware, that's basically meaning, if you know me, I like to assess our personalities a lot in some of the classes I teach. And the reason I do that around the area of leadership in particular and some other courses I teach is to remind you, even a leader has to learn all the time and be open to be taught or educated in some way in that role. That's one of the best characteristics of a strong leader. And so there are a lot of assessment tools out there that you can assess yourself annually or every 2 years to see if you've made any growth in different areas in your leadership styles or your collective identity in terms of social change work. And some of those tools are the competing values framework. Some of you may have touched on that if I had you in my policy classes in undergrad. There's also, the Myers-Briggs. That's a personality test. There are other leadership tests and also vicarious trauma-related tests to see if you've been impacted in any way on the front line as a worker and how to mitigate that from your personal identity or your collective identity with a group in which you're working. So collective identity, like I said, has 3 areas or direction that kind of form. And one of those is the formation of boundaries that differentiate group members from non-group members. So if you've harkened back to your psychology days or early social work conversations on the micro level about in-groups and out-groups, that's what sort of starts to form is, yes, we operate in society as individuals and have our identity as an individual, but we collectively come together around a topic we care about. So say you want to do grassroots organizing in a neighborhood that's had a difficult history of blight and redlining, like we've discussed in earlier sessions with your blogs. We're going to come together there and say, we're going to talk about this. We believe redlining has gone on. We believe we want to turn that around. And so that's that group coming together and differentiating themselves from the rest of, or out as an in-group versus the rest of the collective society. Through the advancement of your consciousness as a group with common interests, is another way that we come together and become that collective identity and construct it further. And then we also do that through negotiation of ways of thinking and acting when we want change to happen, how we're going to come together collectively to make that happen. And so when you're going forward in session 5, we're now to the organizer part and being the self-aware organizer, knowing who you are as an organizer, what you care about, what's your vibe on these topics that we've talked about so far. I have so enjoyed your discussion board and blog comments. I do read them all, and I do see all of your Soft Chalk lectures. You're a very bright group. I hope that you interact with one another, in the virtual world, some outside of just me as your contact, because many of you share so many really insightful perspectives on the topics we bring forward. And I hope that you're enjoying those topics so far. So this is session 5, ta-da! And I hope you're enjoying this course so far. We have 6 more sessions after this, or 5.5 kind of. And so you're doing a really good job keeping up. That's one of the key things with online learning is keeping up in time management. Please remember in your blog post that I do expect when you're making your claims and your comments about whether it's a TED Talk or a different topic I've put before you, please make sure to use your critical thinking skills and apply that to your post. So once you've made your general post and your reflection on whatever the topic is for that week, make sure you get an outside resource or just use one of the resources that I've put forward in your reading for that week and cite that using evidence to support your claim. Because we want to make sure when you do move into the organizer role or you do move into these collective identities that you're packing a punch with facts. The only way you're going to get the buy-in and continued buy-in or effective change is to have that collective thought pulled together in a evidence-based way. So with that, I'll leave you to session 5 and I will get back to you on the papers as soon as I can. I'll be in Florida for the weekend when you're submitting those. So thank you very much for all of your hard work. I'm looking forward to reading them.